in the council chambers, in the members' lounge. If you've not had a chance to speak to them yet, they're going to be in the atrium. What they're trying to do is get some photographs of you all to promote the Imagination Library, and also to assess. There are several other Scottish councils who are really interested in the work that's happening here in Renfrewshire, and they're going to try and replicate that. So this is all to help them, just to give them a wee bit of support. So if you've not already spoken to them, pop down. They've got free sweeties, so I'm sure that there's a good reason to go. Okay, can I have apologies, please?
Thank you, Provost. We have apologies from Councillors Gray and Innes. Otherwise, all other elected members are in attendance at the meeting. Those attending remotely are Councillors Adam, Early Nicholson, Anne Dowling, Burns, Jacqueline Cameron, Campbell, Davidson, Hannigan, Councillor Kenny McLaren and Mags McLaren, Councillor McGonigal, Maguire, McNaughton, Montgomery, Milet and Woden. Everyone else is in the chamber.
Okay, thank you. And this is a hybrid meeting, and we're all well versed in the hybrid meetings by now, but if anyone is dialing in from outside of the council building and you come across any problems, can you alert us as soon as you can, please? And we can get you some help to get back into the meeting if you've been excluded. Okay, can I have declarations of interest or transparency statements? Councillor Lisa Marie Hughes.
Thanks, Provost. Can I declare an interest in item 14, motion 7? As other people won't be aware, but you are my husband, Dr. Dave Hughes, is the founder and CEO of Novosound, so I think it's right that I leave the meeting just to be sensible.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Jamie Maguire.
Thank you, Provost. I will be leaving the meeting on the two motions that talk about Renfrew FC, as I'm a sponsor for Renfrew FC.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Maguire. We have no other declarations of interest, so we'll move on. But just to let you know that if you do discover during the meeting that you have any interest in any of the items, then just let me know as soon as you can, please. If you let me know as soon as you can, I'll accept it from you. Councillor Ian McMillan.
Chair, I'm obviously moving a motion about Johnstone Burgh. I too am a sponsor of Johnstone Burgh, but I don't think that would have any impact on my ability to move a motion. I don't think giving £100 for a banner prohibits me from speaking about Johnstone Burgh. But I'll just point that out anyway.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor McMillan. And I think that I'm going to ask Mark just to come in and clarify that, but I'm pretty sure that it doesn't bar you from speaking in a motion either. But it is an individual choice. If you want to declare an interest, then you are perfectly entitled to do so, just to keep yourself right. Mark.
Thank you, Provost. As the Provost has indicated, all of these decisions have to be decisions for individual members. So whilst officers can give advice, the Standards Commission are always very clear that simply because the advice was in one direction or another does not mean that that's the view that they will take. In deciding whether an interest becomes a matter which you have to declare and remove yourself from the meeting or voting, it's always the application of the objective test, which is essentially whether a member of the public would think that your interest was such that it would influence the way that you would vote on the matter. In terms of applying that test, I think it's always important to look at the nature of the motion itself, and I appreciate that the motions we're talking about are essentially celebratory and acknowledging the achievement of a particular football teams. I think it's two. So on that basis, that's the test that members have to set their mind to, whether members of the public would take the view that your connection with the football club is such that it would influence the way you would vote on the matter. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Chris Gilmour.
Thank Provost. Similar to Councillor McMillan, have a banner at Johnstone Burgh. I have applied the objective test, and therefore I will be going ahead with the motion. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Gilmour. Councillor John Shaw.
Sorry, Councillor, can you put your mic on?
I sponsor the goalkeeper's shirt at Renfrew FC, but I don't think it's going to affect my vote here.
Thanks, Councillor Shaw. Councillor Andy Steele.
Thank you, Provost. I had said to Councillor McFarlane I wasn't going to open my mouth this morning, and here we even made it past the declarations of interest, which I don't think it is, but for the interest of complete transparency, I sponsor Kieran Diver, who of course scored the goal for the Burgh in the cup final. Let's mention that for the upcoming season, it is plainly and blatantly not a conflict of interest or anything like that. They shall stay and take part in all the items. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Steele. Councillor Jill Graham.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we also got the banner at Johnstone Burgh. It's a big banner, but there's no conflict of interest. I've applied the objective test. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Graham. Councillor Lisa Marie Hayes, did you have your hand up there too?
An even more tenuous link, Provost, but I sponsor a player at Renfrew Ladies, so just so that that's on record, I suppose. But I've asked about this before when we've raised issues, and Mark told me at that point I didn't have to declare an interest. But as we're all doing it, I will.
Okay, well, seeing as you're all doing it, I'm going to do it too then. My grandson's 14 and 15 and he plays for Johnstone Burgh, one of the youth teams. So just putting that out there, just in case. Okay, thanks everyone. That takes us on to item 1 in the agenda, Provost update, and I think that's been circulated to you all this morning. Item 2, the minute of the meeting of council boards and panels. Can we agree those? Agreed. Item 3, the unaudited annual accounts 24 to 25 and interim financial update. Do we have any comments or questions? That report. Councillors?
Thank you, Provost. Following on from the head of...
said Councillor Clark.
Sorry?
I should have said
Thank you.
Clark.
Thank you very much, Provost. Following on from the head of finance and procurement's email to all of us reporting the 0.1 million underspend, I wanted to congratulate her and the team as this reflects good short-term budget control. That said, unfortunately, this is not the whole story. The underspend figure excludes HSCP adult services, which is a major area of risk. The IGB is facing significant financial strain and clearly will require substantive council contributions soon, even with the proposed drastic cuts to which they've referred to in their June report. The 85.2 million deficit on service provision, as per accounting standards, presents all of us with a more serious picture. This hefty deficit includes technical accounting entries required by SIPFA and LASAC code. While these do not affect cash, they are crucial for understanding long-term liabilities and asset sustainability. I would suggest that it's incumbent for our finance team to clearly communicate the difference between budget outturns and accounting results to avoid misinterpretation by councillors. The underspend is based on cash-based budget monitoring, while the deficit includes non-cash items like depreciation and pension adjustments. This discrepancy masks underlying structural pressures and should not be seen as a sign of financial health in isolation. I'm nearly finished, Provost. While the council holds a 235.2 million in reserves, much of this is earmarked for specific purposes. We therefore cannot rely on reserves to balance budgets, as this is not sustainable long term. Using reserves to plug recurring funding gaps will in the future bring us over the fiscal cliff. The medium-term funding gap is projected at 25 to 40 million, which clearly shows that current spending levels are not sustainable without increased funding or service reductions. So again, I want to ask, do we have a multi-year financial strategy sufficient to address our incoming financial crisis? Thank you, Provost.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Clark, for those comments. I'll maybe bring Christine in just to explain a little bit more about that, the deficit position and how The figure that you've picked up is, I'm not saying it's not important, however, it is it's largely an accounting reflection of a number of kind of technical accounting adjustments that I think are not necessarily impacting on the council's core financial position, and I would suggest that members should remain cited on those key figures that are reflected within the management commentary and within the covering report to the annual accounts, which outlines a kind of marginal underspend position for the financial year just past. But I would completely agree with Councillor Clark in terms of the financial outlook for the council. It remains challenging. I have committed in terms of that multi-year plan that you suggested. I have committed within the cover report that I will provide a full updated financial outlook to the September council meeting. Members will be aware that the Scottish Government just yesterday afternoon published their own medium-term financial plan. I've not absorbed everything that is within that plan. There are 2 or 3 quite fulsome documents there that what I'm hopeful will be helpful in terms of giving the council a bit more of a steer as to what our funding position will look like over the coming years through the local government settlement. But as I said, I will be providing the council a fuller financial outlook update in the September meeting. So hopefully that's helpful. But I'll bring Christine in just to explain some of those technicalities in terms of the accounting deficit position as opposed to the underlying position. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Clark. Councillor Anne Dowling.
Thanks, convener. I've got.
Sorry, Christine.
Would you like me to wait, convener?
All right, thank you.
Councillor Anne Dowling, could you just hold on a moment, please?
That's no
I'll bring
problem.
you in after Christine's commented. Christine.
Thank you, and thanks for the comment and the question, Councillor Clark. And you explained it very well, actually, in terms of the difference between the deficit that's shown in the comprehensive income and expenditure account and the budgetary outturn position. A number of years ago, a new note into the accounts was introduced, which is at note 1, which is actually page 45 of the accounts. It's called the expenditure and funding analysis, and it tries to set out the reasons that those are different and what has changed between the budgetary outturn figure and what we show in the comprehensive income and expenditure account. And you're right, it's accounting adjustment type things that are shown in the bottom table on that note, which are depreciation and adjustments for pension and so on. So that note tries to decipher, if you like, the differences between those 2 results. But as Alistair was saying, for financial sustainability purposes and for the budgetary outturn, we're looking at the figure that's in the management commentary and in the covering report. That helps.
Okay, thank you, Christine. And we'll now move on to Councillor Anne Dowling.
Thanks, Provost. Can I just check you can hear me all right?
Yeah, you were a wee bit faint when you came in at first. If you could just speak as loud as you possibly can, please.
Okay. I've switched the volume up as well, but I'll do my best. Thank you. I have a question and a couple of comments. Would you like me to give them all in the one go?
Yes, please.
Okay, thanks. So I'll start on page 6, item 5.2. There is a reference to a final overspend within education of 3.293 million, predominantly due to overspends and employee costs relating to teacher cover. I think it would be useful if officers can provide a bit more detail on this, for example, the nature of the cover. And moving on to my comment on item 11 on page 11. I welcome the Financial Capital Outlook report, which outlines the substantial Labour government funding and capital spending that will benefit Renfrewshire, particularly the focus on the Glasgow City Region investment zones cited in Renfrewshire, alongside existing innovation districts and underdeveloped sites near critical infrastructure around Glasgow Airport. I really welcome these ambitious plans and the expectation that it will generate at least £1.7 billion of investment and up to 18,000 full-time equivalent jobs here over the next 10 years. I'm sure we can all agree that this has the potential to have a transformative impact on our economy. My final comment is for item 11.14. and that's on page 15. As a member of the Finance Board, I look forward to the report on the Amos South project to hopefully ratify the decision we make today to back the suggested funding solution to complete this vital infrastructure project. And I commend officers for the quite creative approach they've outlined to members in identifying the additional £14.5 million capital cost to complete it. That potentially allows a way forward for the council to benefit from £38.7 million of investment funding provided by the Labour government. Thank you.
Thanks, Alison. I'm struggling to find a question in there, so if there was one, can you clarify it?
My question was in relation to the current stated overspends within education and the relationship to the costs incurred by teacher cover. There's no detail aligned to that, so I think it would be useful for officers just to
That's how the
not to talk at
overspend
length.
specifically relates
Yeah.
to the teacher cover. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we'll bring Alistair in. I don't know if Alistair, are you happy to answer this?
Yeah, sorry. My colleague was distracting me there. Apologies. Yeah, so in relation to the teacher cover, Councillor Ann Dowling, apologies. So there was over the as we were closing the accounts, it became apparent that the costs associated with teacher cover, we had not forecast them quite to the extent that they had been manifesting themselves over the course of the year, and there is quite a complex process both in budgetary terms and also in terms of returns that come in from all the various educational establishments into the central finance team, and some of that information coming quite late in the financial year. So that's not, I'm not kind of blaming anyone for that, but it's certainly a process that I think we need to tighten up on in terms of that relationship and the flow of information. The level of teacher cover the expenditure on teacher cover was slightly above where we were in previous years, but not significantly, and certainly in terms of again, you mentioned, Councillor Ann Dowling, you sit on the Finance Resources and Customer Services Board, where absence information is discussed quite regularly. We're not noting significant levels of absence across teachers, so but we are seeing an uptick in some of the costs that is potentially related to just the increase in pay levels across teaching staff over the past number of years. And it's probably reflective of the fact that the budgets associated with teacher cover haven't quite kept pace with the levels of increase in teacher pay over the past couple of years. That is an issue that we will be looking to address as we move through this current financial year, in terms of that process and the flow of information between, as I said, the educational establishments and the central finance team. We will be looking to improve and review that process to make sure that we get accurate forecasts as early as possible in the financial year. So hopefully that answers your question, Councillor Ann Dowling.
Councillor Ann Dowling, can you tell me if you're satisfied with that answer?
Thanks, Provost. Yes, I am. Thanks for that.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. Councillor Ian Nicholson.
Just for clarification for the members, I'm assured that Councillor Ann Dowling isn't trying to claim the Labour government provided the bulk funding for the Amos South site, because it wasn't. It was provided by a previous Conservative government, albeit UK one. So I'm quite happy to share that information, just in case anybody got the idea that Amos South is completely funded by any particular one government. And also the fact of the matter is that the Amos South project came about by the very good work of this administration and the officers in having that project shovel ready to go, because the funding we got for that was opportunistic. Because the government at the time was going around looking for projects, and we had that one ready to go. So I just want to say that, and also there's a financial input from this council to all these projects. They're not all funded entirely from the city region. This council puts its own hands in its own pockets and funds these projects as well, because we recognise the value they have to our communities as well. So I want to make that clear today, that these projects are multifaceted, multi-funded by different political parties, and different councils and different governments. I want to make that clear today, Provost. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Anne Dowling, can you make it quick, please?
Thanks, Provost. And I'm very happy to reassure Councillor Nicholson that I in no way implied in my previous statements that this was purely a Labour government initiative. I've always acknowledged the part that other parties, including this council, the substantial part that we have played. But I'm very glad to hear that Councillor Nicholson's shares with us the benefits of sharing resources as part of the UK partnership that we all
Councillor
enjoy.
Anne Dowling,
Good to hear it.
Councillor
Thank
Anne
you.
Dowling, Councillor Anne Dowling, this is not a tit for tat. Have you got a new question or a new point to make?
I think I've answered Councillor Nicholson. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, can we agree the report, which, in case you've forgotten, was item 3, the unaudited report? Thank you. And we'll move on to item 4, the Treasury Management Annual Report for 2024 to 25. Do we have any questions or comments? Councillor Graham Clark.
Thank you, Provost. With 368.4 million in financial liabilities, are there any plans to restructure existing debt, or is the situation unfavourable at this time?
Christine?
Thanks very much. Thanks, Chair. Thanks for your question. Yes, that is something that we look into. We have our Treasury advisors regularly advising us on that point. And at the moment, it's not economical for us to do that, to restructure the debt that's there.
Okay, Councillor Clark. Okay, we have no other comments or questions. Can we agree the report, please? Item 5 is the Accounts Commission Best Value Audit Report. I'm going to bring in the Chief Executive, Alan Russell.
Thanks very much, Provost. I wouldn't say too much. I'm acutely aware members have the full report within their agenda pack, but I thought it was appropriate just to come in and say a few words by way of introduction to the report. I mean, firstly, what I would say is that I'm very pleased to introduce the Controller of Audit's Best Value Report for the Council, which was considered by the Accounts Commission on the 15th of May. The Commission's findings were, as the report notes, published on the 5th of June and are included within the main report itself. Along with the more tightly focused best value audit themes that are published each year as part of the annual audit work, the main best value report that you've got in front of you does represent the most significant output from the 5-year best value audit cycle. So I think it's important to note that the publication of this report and, importantly, the findings from the Commission do represent a major milestone as part of the independent audit and scrutiny of the Council. So this is a significant report that has been presented to Council today. So in that context, I'm delighted to be presenting a report which is very positive, but also a very positive set of findings from the Accounts Commission following their consideration of the Auditor's report. And indeed, in a follow-up meeting with Commissioners last week, it was acknowledged by the Commissioners that this report ranks amongst the very best that they have considered as part of their audit cycle today. So, as summarised in the covering report, the Commission have recognised the Council's strong leadership, the positive working and organisational culture in the Council, the effective financial management of the Council, and the meaningful engagement with our communities, and also the improvements that we are progressing in this regard, and also the positive management of and response to the recent challenges we've had in relation to school provision in Burgh, and members will be very aware of the significant interest the Accounts Commission have taken in that particular issue over the past 2 years. The Commission have also welcomed our innovative cultural assurance model, and that we are sharing that best practice model with our peers across the country. And have also noted and welcomed the scale and ambition of the Council's capital programme. And whilst they acknowledge the factors that have impacted some projects over recent years, they have rightly recognised that the scale of the Council's ambition in relation to the capital programme will remain a challenge for us to deliver in future years, but it's very much an area that continues to be actively managed by the Council. I'm sure elected members will also have noted that the report contains no formal recommendations or actions, and I think that in itself is a positive reflection of the Commission's confidence in the governance and our demonstrated commitment to self-improvement activity. But nevertheless, in line with our core values that we value learning as an organisation, you'll note that we have identified a number of actions within the report, and they're detailed in section 4 of the report, and those will be incorporated into our wider corporate improvement planning activity moving forward, and that will continue to be reported through the normal routes within the Council. So I suppose in closing, Provost, I would like to take the opportunity to express my personal and sincere thanks to the full workforce here at the Council, to our partner organisations, and indeed to all elected members in the Chamber for what is a combined and sustained commitment to deliver best value here in Renfrewshire. And I think the strength of that commitment has been rightly recognised in the report that's presented here today. So at that, Provost, I'll stop and happy to take any questions that members might have.
Thank you very much for that, Alan. Councillor Nicholson.
Thanks, Provost. I thought I'd say a few words today on behalf of the administration members and behalf of the full Council, hopefully. We were interested in the fact that the best value report was brought forward as well. We thought that was helpful for the Council to bring it forward and have that external scrutiny sooner rather than later. As Alan has said, the report is positive with regards to this Council, how it operates, how it goes about its business. And as I said, when we recently met up with the Accounts Commission to discuss the best value report and findings, the view of the Commission members was it was a very positive report for the Council, which is very welcome. It places Renfrewshire Council amongst one of the highest performing councils across Scotland. More importantly, members will know that it's followed on from a string of external reports and with regards to the Council, with adult protection, education, again, very good reports for the Council and very good outcomes. And as I said, and Alan has indicated, it places the Council as one of the best performing in Scotland, which we should all be proud of. Every member should be proud of Renfrewshire in that position. And it's also reassuring to read the report, the Commission findings, they align broadly with the reports that have been considered by the Council in regard, particularly the policy boards, in relation to both challenges and opportunities that are facing this organisation. And it provides welcome external assurance, because I think that's important, that we don't internalise what we think needs to be done and what we think needs to be happening. What we need to have is external eyes looking at us as well, is to confirm what we believe is the right course of action or not, or to give us their impression on what the Council's direction of travel is on that front, and where we want to improve. The challenges facing local authorities are well known across Scotland and well documented in terms of managing resources, progress in the transformation plans that we have, and continue to work to strengthen the ways we engage and consult with our local communities, and also recognise the positive work's been taken forward by the Council, which is provide a solid basis in which we can move forward. So importantly, the external reassurance we get from this report is very important. And as Alan has thanked the workforce, I'm just going to say, and hopefully on behalf of the administration, but hopefully on behalf of the whole Council, we want to thank all the officers who have been involved. These are quite intensive processes that we've been going through for the past couple of years. They've used up a lot of resources, they've used up a lot of manpower, but they've been very valuable for the Council. And this one has sort of the accumulation of it. Hopefully, I think we'll not see the best value for 3 years. Well, good. So we're basically what I'm saying today is we want to express our thanks to all officers for their time and effort and to help to produce and respond to the external inquiries at this council, which by and large have been very positive and place this council in a very good position going forward. Thanks, Provost.
Thanks, Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Ian McMillan.
Aye, thanks very much. I would certainly think it's a fairly positive report, and I too would like to thank the staff for their work, ongoing work on a daily basis. And I think as well, all the councillors can take some comfort from the work that we do in all the various committees and boards and external boards and all the rest of it. I think all the councillors in here are fairly grown up and just want the best for Renfrewshire Council, and more importantly, the best for all our citizens. So I think we have to acknowledge that. Although there are obviously one or two negatives, and you wouldn't be surprised for me not to pick out some of the negatives. And I think the dark cloud of Dargavel debacle still looms large over much of the work that we do, and that's obviously been pinpointed in the report. And I know I'll take lessons from yourself, Provost, that the IJB stuff is still there as well. I know we'll be talking about that later on, so I'll not talk too much about that. I think you're right to say there's challenges in the capital programme, there's no doubt about it. I am not going to knock anybody for being ambitious. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But there are challenges, and I think sometimes we can be a bit unrealistic at times and maybe promising things that might not be able to deliver as quickly as possible. And obviously, I go back to Thorn Primary School, what's happened with that, how that's been sort of delayed. So I think we have to manage people's expectations and communities' expectations. There's a couple of things in the report highlights that we have to do more to develop council decision making and achieving transparency and openness in decision making process. I think that's something we need to pay attention to and we need to learn. I think also, and I brought this up before at a leadership board, that sometimes the things that the savings that have been delivered they don't form part of the council's routine reporting. I think that's highlighted there as well. I think there should be more transparency about cuts. And I kind of later on in the report, I was talking about the local government benchmarking, and I certainly noticed that 35% of these benchmarkings have declined recently, and specifically on education. Out of the 19 education performance indicators, 13 have shown a downward trend as well. So although it is a fairly positive report, and I'll use the word fairly positive report, there are some issues there that have to be addressed, and that's an ongoing basis, and we all take our responsibility seriously on that. But as I said, I don't think there's anybody in here out of the 43 councillors wants to see Renfrewshire Council fail. We want to see it succeed and continue to strive and do better for the communities that we all represent and care so much for. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Alan, do you want to come back in just now before I bring in Councillor Doig?
Yeah, thanks, Provost, and thanks for those observations, Councillor McMillan. I mean, I suppose as a general response, says that you would always expect through the scale and depth of the audit activity that happens for there to be areas where there is mutual agreement between ourselves and auditors on key areas to deliver improvement. I don't think any organisation will ever have an audit report of this scale that in the annual process that happens within the council's arrangements that wouldn't identify areas for improvement. And as I said earlier, that's reflective of our culture here at the council, which is about always recognising there are always areas that we can look to improve, and we will always look to progress those each and every year. So, as I said, that there are a number of improvement actions identified within sections 4 of the report. We took the commissioners that visited through those actions. They're very comforted and assured in relation to what is outlined within there. So we will continue to progress those actions and look to improve in some of the areas that you've flagged yourself. In terms of the local government benchmarking references, what I would say is, we will always strive to deliver the best possible performance, and I think it's natural that any organisation will have areas of improving performance and areas where performance may dip. I think it's important about how you respond to that. But what I would say is that in their assessment that the auditor and indeed the Commission recognised overall, despite some of the challenges that we have within Renfrewshire, it's a high-performing council, and they recognise it as that. And they did make reference to the reported local targets and performance report in education. I think there's something in there for us to review the stretch ambitions we're probably setting for ourselves. But when they look at the local government benchmarking performance, which obviously compares this to the rest of Scotland, they recognise that within education and within social care, the council's performance relative to not just our family group, but the rest of Scotland, we are in the very top quartile of performance, and in some areas amongst the very best in Scotland. And as you know, those are two of the most challenging areas to deliver successful outcomes. So I think from that point of view, the council is doing very well, but we certainly won't rest on our laurels, and we recognise that where areas of performance have dipped, it's important that we continue to focus on that. And indeed, the auditors acknowledged the recent changes we've made to some of our officer governance arrangements to establish a new performance board to focus very much on key areas of performance across the council to make sure that there is a corporate focus brought to that, and the level of attention we would want in order to deliver sustained improvements. So hopefully that gives you a bit of reassurance.
Thank you, Alan. Councillor Andy Doig.
Thanks, Provost. Sorry, I'm sorry I had to put my hand up, Provost, the old-fashioned way. My computer decided to restart at the most inopportune time, so thank you. No, I'd like to reassure Councillor McMillan. He makes good points in relation to the issues of transparency and openness, but I do think in the last decade, Provost, there's been quite a significant change, I would say, in the culture of the council. And I'm going to give a few examples to the chamber today. Regarding, for example, the Safe Walking Route initiatives that the council has promoted since 2021. Now, the initial pilot was in Kilbarchan, Howwood and in Houston, so I can talk about Howwood and Kilbarchan. The officers were extremely proactive in that. They've made several visits to the local community councils to liaise with community council members. There's been various iterations of the different plans. They presented a first draft. That's been amended possibly 3 or 4 times through amendments put to them by community councils. So what I'm saying here is I think there has been a change of culture, definitely in the part of the council. I can also say that's been the case in relation to the various heritage projects that the council's working on. In relation to the Steeple Hall in Kilbarchan, in the same vein, the lead officers for that have been out to visit the community council, to visit local groups. There's been a very high level of engagement, and I think that's good, and I think it's positive. I mean, there's always room for improvement. We can always say that, but I do think in the last decade there's been a significant change in the culture of the council. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Doig. Okay, we have no other hands up. I think, Ian, obviously you're entitled to your opinion, but in my opinion, I think this is better than a fairly good report. I'm very, very happy with it as Provost of Renfrewshire. And I think that every single member of this council should be too. You do an awful lot of work. Councillors do. You do far more than the public realise. And I think that everybody should be proud. Of course, it's good to have opposition. It's good to still keep your eye on the ball, and we don't get everything right. But I think as far as what Alan has mentioned about where we are in relation to other Scottish councils, I think you can take a lot of heart that this council is doing really well. Councillor Hood, very quickly.
No, it's nothing to do with that. I have just realised I totally missed it. I have in item number 10, Johnstone Sound is mentioned in it. And I'm a director in Johnstone Sound, but there's no money and no financial interest, so I'll take part.
Okay. Just note that just now, Councillor Hood. Okay, Mark?
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hood. Okay, can we agree the best value audit report, please? Thank you very much. That moves us on to governance arrangements. Mark, do you have things to say, I believe?
Yes. Just have a second, Provost, sorry. Thank you, members. This report's covering 3 separate items. One is in relation to the lighting up of our buildings. The second is essentially an update on our decisions in relation to flag flying. The reason for incorporating that in the report is that there have been a number of inquiries, public inquiries, and we felt it would be good to capture what the current arrangements are on a public record and therefore be able to direct members of the public to that. And the third item arises in respect of nominations from the Labour group to deal with vacancies. Dealing firstly with the lighting up of the buildings, Provost has drawn my attention to a couple of changes that are required on Appendix 1. The item referring to the Girl Guide movement on the 18th of February, the correct date for that should actually be the 22nd of February, and it should be listed as World Thinking Day. So hopefully members will agree to that change being made. And secondly, World Prostate Cancer Day is listed as the 1st of May, but it should in fact be the 11th of June. So again, it'd be seeking to make those changes to that. In respect of the board appointments, I would draw members' attention to the fact that there is a vacancy on the licensing board. So a nomination is sought for that. If there is not a nomination forthcoming today, I would ask that members give consideration to reducing the membership of the licensing board from 10 to 9. So if we can fill it, that would be helpful. But if we can't, I would be looking to reduce the number rather than leaving a vacancy sitting there. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Lisa Marie Hughes.
Thanks, Provost. I have an amendment. Ewan has it.
You circulate it just now, Ewan. Thank you.
You want me to speak to it, or do you want me to
If you just give me a few seconds to land in people's inboxes. Ewan is distributing an amendment from Councillor Lisa Marie Hughes. Who's your seconder, Councillor Hughes? Councillor John Shaw.
I just elbowed him.
He didn't know that, but he knows now. Okay, if you want to just check your inboxes. Somebody confirm that they have it? Yeah? Okay, Councillor Hughes.
Okay, thanks, Provost. So the motion, the amendment ostensibly comes because Renfrew Community Council were in touch with me to ask about the possibility of flying the borough flag in the town hall. I've had some discussions with Mark about it, and this seems a bit like the easiest way to make that happen. Renfrew obviously has a very proud history in terms of the political and social development of the modern Scotland we have, of education, of engineering, and of course culture, and it will have a bright future. The Community Council and indeed the town are very proud of our town and what it is, and they think this is a positive way to mark that, and I think it's a honourable and sensible suggestion in order to try and not make your flag process is too complex. I've tried to tidy it up a bit. So our suggestion is that borough flags are flown in both Renfrew and Johnstone from the relevant flagpole, which is the third flagpole to councillors in the room. Not except in the occasions as noted in Appendix 2, because of course these are important things and we want to mark those in the towns as well. The third flagpole would remain as it currently is at Renfrewshire House because it is effectively the seat of government and reflects the whole of Renfrewshire and indeed this council. And it also notes that next year is the 30th anniversary of the establishment of the council. So it asks that we agree that the flag of the council is flown to mark the occasion and suggests that we delegate that to you in officers so that we don't have to have another discussion about flags before that time. So I hope that councillors around the chambers are amenable to this. I think it's very sensible and allows us both to support our local areas and history, but also our political considerations for world politics. Personally, will continue to support Ukraine and Palestine and think it's important that we continue to fly those flags. I was just looking for a tidy-ish solution. I hope everyone is amenable to that.
Yeah, Mark. Thank you, Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Provost. Thank you, Councillor Hughes, and obviously gave me advance notice of the amendment last night, which I discussed with colleagues that would be involved in the arrangements for this. Can I just seek one clarification from you, because two of us read it differently. So my understanding of what was being said is that, as you've indicated, Johnstone and Renfrew would fly the borough flags. Within Renfrewshire House, we would remain with the current arrangements. But my understanding motion was that was until 2026, and then at all three locations we'd be flying the Renfrew flag. But it was possible to read that the borough flags were still flying those two, and it's only at Paisley that
Sorry, Eddie. No, so for the determined time during 2026, which you will determine with the Provost, I'm sure, the Renfrew Council flag would be flown, and then it would just revert to what's
just at the Paisley flagpole.
But at Paisley or at all three locations, that was the bit that there was a bit of dubiety about.
I think it'd be all three.
All three.
Yeah. That was how I had read it.
And then it can just revert back to the two borough flags,
okay.
Or whatever.
That's thanks for the clarification. Okay. Do we have any other amendments? No? John? Councillor Shaw.
Just in seconding this motion, this amendment, sorry. This has been something that the Community Council in Renfrew have been trying to do for years and years and years, going back to the, I think, 33 years of the iron gavel of the legendary F.A. McGahey as chair of the Renfrew Community Council. And I remember when I was on the Community Council for 5 years, between 2011-12 through to 2017, when I ended up getting elected here. And I remember a couple of times that they tried then to make this happen, to have the borough flag flying from the Renfrew Town Hall, and it was declined at that point for whatever reason. And there was great disappointment in the Community Council, and if I remember correctly, it was at that point that the agreement was made to fly the borough flag from the Ferry Green, which was great, but it wasn't the Town Hall. So it's great to see the work, the continuing work from the Community Council and from Councillor Hughes in making this happen and engaging with officers, not just shouting about it, engaging with officers and actually making this happen. And I'm sure Mrs. McGahey will be absolutely delighted to hear that the borough flag's finally flying from the Town Hall. So it's good.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Shaw. Yeah, I know flags are important to some people. I'm on because I probably spend the equivalent of a week's annual leave every year discussing flag issues. But there are many more requests that are received by this council than you will ever know. But yeah, if the local people are happy with that, then that's good. Councillor, Chris Gilmour, do you want to come in on the flag issue? No, do we have anyone else who wants to come in on the flag issue? We'll put that to bed before we move on. Okay.
Thanks. It's just on the amendment. It's got. Are you meaning the flag will be flown on the days in the box? And because it said that the flags will be the borough flags will be flying all the time apart from these days. But if you take the the political flag and the Ukraine flag, they'll be up the whole time. Yeah, but they're rotated bi-monthly, so it's one flag and then Ukraine and then the other one.
Thanks.
Right, councillors. Councillors, excuse me, can you just hold on a wee minute? Can you direct your questions over here, please? Thanks.
Yeah, so my reading of it, on the third paragraph, following a council motion, 9th of May 2024, the Palestinian flag and Ukraine flag are flown 2 months alternatively. So, and there are no other, apart from the flags listed below. So if they're rotated bi-monthly, then there's no space for the borough flag because they're already flown all the time anyway.
But the flag, the Ukrainian flag and the Palestinian flag at present are rotated, but they also come down on things like Armed Forces Day, Idaho Day, and the same thing will happen, I assume, when the borough flag goes up. Any other flag will come down. Sorry, the council flag goes up. Remember, the council flag will begin up next year, just for a certain period of time. It's just to celebrate an anniversary. It's not a flag that will begin up every month or every 2 months.
Right.
But Mark, do you want to come in and clarify that?
Yeah, I think, Councillor Gilmour, to clarify the point you're making is about the Ukraine and Palestinian flags. I think what is clear from the amendment is that you will have different arrangements now in the 3 locations. So as members know, we have got 3 flagpoles. 2 of those flagpoles are always the Union flag and the Saltire. So in relation to the 3rd flag, what is being suggested is that in Renfrew and Johnstone, going forward, so obviously we'll need to actually acquire the flags and make the arrangements to fly them, but going forward, the Ukrainian and Palestinian flags will not fly at those 2 locations because they will be replaced by the Johnstone Borough flag in Johnstone and the Renfrew Borough flag in Renfrew. At Renfrewshire House here in Paisley, we will continue to fly the Union flag and Palestinian flag as set out in the previous council decision. Come 2026, in discussions with Provost, as to what those arrangements will be, the Renfrewshire Council flag will fly at all 3 locations on that 3rd flagpole for a period in 2026. And thereafter, at the end of that, we will revert in Johnstone and Renfrew to the borough flags again. I hope that helps.
Okay. That clear? Yeah.
I thought it was quite clear.
Okay, so the report's been amended by Councillor Lisa Marie and Councillor John
I think other councillors.
Oh, sorry, Eddie. I did ask if anybody wants to come in on the flag issue. Is it the flag issue? Okay. Then you come.
Appointed in this being proposed, and it will be accepted. We all know that. It feels like some people want to forget what's going on in Palestine and Ukraine, and they're quite happy. They're quite happy to ditch the flags of these people and let them just suffer. It's just lesser of 2 evils to keep it up in Paisley. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to accept it. I don't like it and I don't approve of it. I think we should be showing support for any country that's under attack, like Palestine and Ukraine. However, I'm not daft enough to know that it's not going to go through anyway. But I just want my feelings known that I am extremely unhappy with the way this has been put through. Thanks, Chair.
I think some people, I'm extremely unhappy. Anyone thinking that I don't care about the Ukrainian or the Palestinian people, because I do. And this is in no way to play down what's going on in those countries, ever. And I want my feelings on that known. And now the rest of the councillors can speak for themselves, but that's certainly my position. So I just want to reassure you that that is absolutely not the case. So, okay. Councillor Hood.
Thank you very much. I do support the changes here, but I just want to sort of let everybody know that I have been approached on a number of occasions, or told to be approached, and asked why I was supporting a terrorist group by putting up the Palestinian flags. And I did have conversations with them. I did mention now it's over 18,000 under 16s that have been killed within Gaza. But as you say, we won't forget that. And if there's anything else coming up, probably most of us will support it. But I just wanted to go there and some of the things that's happened.
Yeah, and there are other things that we can do as individuals to support those countries. I know that I do. I give donations to the humanitarian funds to help the children. So, you know, there are other ways that you consider helping too. Councillor Lisa Marie Hughes.
Thanks, Provost. I want to come back in on that because I feel like my character's been besmirched. Actually, I've been outspoken about my support for Palestine. I've moved motions in this chamber. I am horrified by the genocide that is occurring, continues to occur, and is supported by governments unilaterally, just letting them go. And by the rapidly escalating situation in the Middle East. There is a reason that these flags will still be flown in the flagpole at Renfrewshire House, and that is because we support these people. I am moving this motion at the request of my community who want to see their flag flown because they are proud of their community. And these things are not in contest with each other. And I think the suggestion is disgusting, Eddie.
Okay, thanks, Lisa Marie. Okay, in the absence of
I'm pleased you think it's disgusting standing up for people who have been murdered.
Eddie, that's really inappropriate. Your comment is inappropriate. Okay, in the absence of any other amendments, can we, Ian, quickly? Oh, okay, so can we agree that's part of the report with the flag amendment from Councillor Lisa Marie Hughes and Councillor John Shaw? Thank you very much. The next thing we need to deal with.
So that leaves the other two matters. If members are content in respect of the lighting up the building arrangement subject to the changes which are detailed, hopefully those can be agreed, and that then leaves the question of the board positions.
Okay, everyone agreed about the lighting up the buildings, yeah? Oh, sorry, Chris.
Thanks, Provost. And it is to do with the lighting of the buildings, and it's just a bit of housekeeping.
Yeah.
For the officers. Appendix 1, page 199, Renfrewshire Council Civic Building List, item 3, Houston Square, spelling incorrect.
Yes.
Nothing out of 10. Carried a mistake forward to page 200, appendix 2, item 3, top paragraph, Houston Square.
Yep.
See me afterwards. Yep.
You will be very, very pleased to know that I actually raised this issue yesterday with Mark, so it's already noted.
I will say that the Provost raised, I think it appears 3 times in the report. I did go off immediately after that and Google it, and I was seeing both answers on Google, but I will bow to the elected members that represent that area, and I'm suitably chastised.
I did tell him they would have a Johnstonian on his back today. Houston. Okay, thanks, Councillor Gilmour. And the issue of the boards, the licensing boards, do we have any nominations?
If we have no nominations, can we agree?
Councillor Ian McMillan, your hand is still up. Did you want to come back in? Yeah? Okay. Okay. Okay, so we have no nominations, so can we then agree to have, Mark?
Yeah, can we?
Clarification, do you want to?
Can we agree that the membership of the licensing board will be reduced from 10 to 9?
Agreed. Councillor Ian McMillan.
Just to kind of sweep up, I was going to mention what Chris had mentioned with the spelling mistake. I understand why, because when you do Google it, it gets different spellings, but anybody that's from Johnstone knows it's quite unique and it's OUN, although people will tell you otherwise, but it's OUN. So hopefully we don't see that mistake made again. I didn't know this was coming today, the amendment, and I think it's pretty good. I think we're now moved on a long time since towns in Renfrewshire being boroughs, but I think it's got to be remembered. It's been a long time since Johnstone was a borough, although if you look closely, there's still some Johnstone borough town council signs kicking about in places, usually in no ball signs, which were largely ignored when I was a boy anyway. So it's good to remember your history. It's good for people, kids, to know that it wasn't always Renfrewshire Council. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it wasn't always the way it is now. So I think that's good. And I had mentioned this before, and I can't remember because I come in every committee, but I think it's good that we're marking the 30th anniversary of Renfrewshire Council. I think that's really good. And, you know, for very humble beginnings over in the Robertson Centre to where we are now, I think that has to be marked. And I think that's a good, positive thing. We shouldn't be embarrassed about it. We're Renfrewshire Council, we're marked, we're known throughout Scotland. So I think that's a positive thing. So I would certainly support the amendment as put forward.
And we do have a councillor here who remembers those heady early days. 02, yeah. Yourself and Councillor Nicholson, he reminded me that this is 25 to 26 was a shadow year. 95, yeah, sorry, 95, yeah. And were you here as well, James? Yes. Oh, for goodness sake. Well, we've got three then.
What do you think?
We've got three old heads in the chamber. Or should I say wise heads and not old? Okay, well, thank you for your time. Okay, can we agree the governance report as amended? Agreed. Okay, next up we have the Audit, Risk and Scrutiny Board Annual Report 24 to 25. Don't know if Andy Doig wants to say anything on this. Councillor Andy Doig.
Thanks very much, Provost. I'd like just to touch and flag up a few highlighted things that I've picked out of the report that members will have read it anyway, but I'd like to highlight a few aspects that I think are quite important. First of all, I'd like to thank the council officers that serve the Audit, Risk and Scrutiny Board. I think they're exceptional. They're extremely hardworking and they've really helped me settle in my role as a convener in the last 3 years. I'd like to thank all the current board members. I'd like to thank those former members of the board in the last year, like Councillor Gray and Councillor Gilmour, who have moved on to pastures anew. But in particular, I'd like to thank my deputy, Councillor Janice MacDonald, who's a great source of guidance to me. I think I'm a great source of annoyance to Janice, but she's a great source of guidance to me. I think key elements to this report are clause 5.8. The board agreed in certain circumstances that we might have 2 non-voting lay members who have external expertise in certain areas that we want to examine. Now, we've agreed as well, convener, we don't feel we want to take that option up at the moment, but I think it's important to stress we want the option to be there in relation to what we might want to examine. I think that's important, that we have another element, another breadth to the board's knowledge base if we want to take that up. Clause 7.7, on the 4th of November, the board meeting last year agreed to continue to receive periodic reports on school roll projections and learning estate planning, and that was in response to the Bowles report. Clause 9.5, over the last year, we've amended the guidelines for operation of the board to recommend that all board members undertake an annual assessment of knowledge and skills. This will be used to develop an annual training programme for board members. Clause 9.7, we looked at 4 areas in our development session on the 16th of May earlier this year. Now, there's an action plan appended to the report that arose from this, as did a new induction programme for new board members, and that's in clause 9.8. So I'd like to summarise this, but thanking again the officers, thanking other board members. I think it's a positive report. Of course, there's always room for improvement, Provost. We know that. Perfection rarely occurs where humans are involved, but we are striving very hard and extremely hard. We're working to look to our own merits, to improve the skills that we have as board members so that we can serve not just the council, but the people of Renfrewshire as a whole. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Doig. Councillor Janice MacDonald.
Thank you, Convener. I really want to endorse most of what Councillor Doig said. I will take umbrance. I don't find him annoying, but I do think we have a healthy working tension that makes a difference in terms of the board development. I really want to echo the views held about the officers and the effort that's been put in recently in terms of the continuous improvement of the board itself. I think that can only have an impact and a knock-on effect of improving the other boards as we work through our programme. So I'm personally wanting to thank the convener and the work that we've done, all the officers and the other councillors that I think will need to be engaged now as we move forward, so that we improve the governance and the output from the board. I think it will be useful to maintain a line of sight on the expenditure in terms of the policies that the Audit Commission are recommending. And I think it will be good to see the options coming through regarding the decision making. From my point of view, these improvements will make a huge difference and will engage the community in a much more positive way, I think, rather than maybe having to address consistent negativity. So all in all, I think I would also want to endorse the work that previous boards have done, but we've had a lot of change of membership in this board, and I think that's been to the benefit, other than I too missed the input from Councillor Gilmour particularly. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice, for your very fair and positive comments, and thanks to everyone on the board. Thank you, Councillor Doig, for your great relationship with your colleagues. Thank you so much. Okay, can we agree the report then? Thank you. That brings us on to the motions. Now I'm going to take, there will be no surprise, I'm going to take 8 and 9 together, which are the two motions about Johnstone Burgh Football Club and their success, and also 11 and 15 together, and those are in relation to Renfrew Football Club. Okay, so motion 1 is by Councillors McMillan and Gilmour, and motion 9 is by Councillors Steele and Cameron. Your motion is first up, Ian, so you're first to talk.
I think that's fairly sensible, bringing them together, so quite happy with that. Listen, when the Borough won the Cup a few weeks ago, it was an absolutely fantastic day for everybody.
We should give them a round of applause right now. Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody in Johnstone has a place in their heart for Johnstone Burgh, and whether they're a Rangers supporter, a Celtic supporter, a St Mirren supporter, Johnstone Burgh is always, as I say, a special place. And even though these days I'm very much involved in Thorn Athletic Football Club, I still have a lot of time for Johnstone Burgh and what they do up there. And of course, I need to congratulate Thorn Athletic, who actually won their league this year as well. So it's been a great season for Johnstone football teams and Renfrewshire football teams in general. But back concentrating on the Borough, I wasn't born in '64 the last time they won it. I was too young to remember 1968, but I certainly remember tales of the joyous celebrations in Johnstone following that. And in 2000, they got to the final and unfortunately lost in penalty kicks. But that day in Cumbernauld will live long in the memory. For those of us who were at the game, it was absolutely fantastic. And I was very fortunate. I was there with my dad. I was there with my daughter, and I was there with my granddaughter. So there's 4 generations of the family, and being a supporter of a rather large football club, The difference you get when you go and see a smaller community club like Johnstone Borough is it's like chalk and cheese, because you virtually know everybody in the crowd, and it's that community feeling. And I think the people who took over the borough in the last couple of years have done an absolute marvellous job. Johnstone Borough were languishing. There were very poor crowds there. The stadium looked tired. Everything was tired about the borough. But these guys have come in and have done a tremendous job, and have reignited support and love for Johnstone Borough Football Club. They've been going since the 1950s, and they've had a roller coaster ride in that time. My own great grandfather helped lay the pitch in the 1950s, and he had great notions of joining the committee, but he wasn't posh enough to join the committee. It was all businessmen and professional people that got on the committee. My poor old great grandpa got rejected, but he was still a borough man, and he done his bit to start off the club, and I'm very, very proud of that. But on that particular day, after the game finished, when you looked on the pitch and you seen all the youngsters running on the pitch, I know they really shouldn't have done it, but they couldn't help themselves. But there was one guy that I seen standing on that pitch who I've seen cut the grass, run the line, sell the raffle, take in money at the turnstiles, and been an advocate for Johnstone Borough for a long time, a guy called Brian Williams. And he's popped up everywhere in the last wee while, showing off the cup, and I've seen him in the Scottish Parliament yesterday as well. And honestly, I had a tear in my eye, because I've known Brian all my days, was in the year below me at school, and the work he's done at that club is absolutely wonderful. And that whole day, although it was for everybody in Johnstone, for me, it was for that guy, the guy who's put so much into that club. So next season's a big season for Johnstone Borough. They're in the top league. They're going forward, and the people who are in charge of the club are good people, and they're in it for the right reasons. And as I say, absolutely delighted. And you know, I've had some fantastic football memories following Rangers in Scotland all my days, but Johnstone Borough winning the cup that day is up there with them. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor McMillan. It was a great day. I was there myself, and you were right. It was the young people that I noticed. You know, they were just so excited. And when I met I met the gentleman who captained the team to their victory in the 67 to 68 season, and that man was just to be there that day for him just meant the world. You know, and it's when you meet people like that, you just know exactly how much it means to members of the community. It was wonderful. Councillor Chris Gilmour.
Thanks, Provost. I think I'll probably continue in the vein of congratulate Johnstone Borough. I think since we're taking over 2023, they've been on the up and up. But I'd really like to spend a little bit of time of the difference it's made to Johnstone itself. The goodwill and the great feeling around the town of Johnstone and surrounding areas have been absolutely unbelievable. And that probably is in part of the fact of the generosity of Johnstone Borough, because not only happy to win the cup and beating a team which was a league higher than them, they brought the cup home the Saturday night to adulation and scenes. It's been a long time. I say they were singing in the streets of Johnstone, as the well-known rugby commentator used to say, or dancing in the streets. And that has continued because through their generosity, they visited schools, care homes, businesses, give them all publicity, and even the Scottish Parliament. So I would just like to say thank you very much to Johnstone Borough for the generosity in representing the town of Johnstone. You've given the town a great lift. But also, if you look at the Johnstone Borough's crest, this is quite prescient due to the last motion or the amendment about borough flags. Johnstone's motto in Old Scots is gang forward. So let's just hope that Johnstone Borough next season in the top league can gang forward to even more and more success. Thank you very much, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor Gilmour. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Provost. My colleagues have really covered most of the ground, so I won't detain you very long. It was similar to Councillor McMillan. I was there with my boy, and despite very kind invitations elsewhere, I really wanted to be there with my son to create a memory that hopefully lasts a few years for me and a lifetime for him, because that's what it's all about, really. When we go to the Burgh on a Saturday afternoon, it's really, I like going and watch the Burgh, it's because I get to spend 2 hours with my son, which I don't very often. So it meant an awful lot. Councillor Gilmour is absolutely correct about the motto. I really hope and look forward to seeing the Burgh and the town ganging forward together in future on the Burgh.
Thanks, Councillor Steele. And Councillor Jacqueline Cameron.
Thanks, Provost. Excuse me. Yeah, the last time, sorry, the last time I was at a football match was 1968, and I was small enough to fit in the Junior Cup. But I really got caught up in the excitement, although I'm not particularly a football fan, and I did follow it. I watched the game on BBC Alba, and I got a wee taste of that excitement when it was the penalty shootout. I was on the edge of my seat, so absolutely loved it, and I make a commitment to go and see Johnstone Burgh because I did get caught up in the excitement, and the scenes in Houston Square were just fantastic. So well done to Johnstone Burgh, and I will be coming along to watch a game soon.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Councillor Eddie Devine.
Thanks, Provost. I really didn't intend coming in this, but Ian McMillan just reminded me of who I should blame for losing a cup final in 1961. It's his dad, because he made a slope in that park, which is Ian, I don't know if he's played on it, as a blinking nightmare. Anyway, thanks, Ian. And well done to the Burgh.
Yeah, it was a very proud day indeed, I think, for everyone in Johnstone, and it just gave the community a whole buzz, didn't it? And you'll be pleased to know that I'm in the process of organising an appropriate civic hall hospitality reception for the players and our guests. I think due to the timing, it might need to be ratified at your board, Councillor Shaw. But that's we're in the process. We're in the process of organising that just now, so it was just to let you all know that they've got that to look forward to as well, and I think it's appropriate for their success. So can we agree both motions combined then? That was motion 8 and 9. Agreed? Okay, motion 3. Motion 3. Right, I said that right. It was item 8 and 9 before. It was motion 1 and 2.
Yes.
That we took together, just for clarity. We're on item 10, and it's motion 3, and that's Councillors Andy Doig and John Hood. Councillor Andy Doig.
Okay, thanks very much, Provost. To continue the sporting theme, the agenda is really full of sport today. The idea for this motion, Provost, actually came through the last meeting of the Johnstone Business Consortium. And it was a Johnstone Business Consortium member who floated the idea that we should maybe have some kind of cycling event. And there was 4 councillors there present on that night. There was myself, Councillor Steele, Councillor McMillan and Councillor Gilmour. And ourselves and the rest of the meeting felt that the idea had merit. Councillor Steele and I are both cycling aficionados, and we have spoken about this before. And we've actually, Councillor Steele and I have already had an exploratory meeting with members of the events team. And I've also had informal discussion with members of the Johnstone Wheelers. So I think there's a lot of goodwill towards the concept, and the motion is fairly self-explanatory. It's, I think, talking about the Burgh celebrations, it's made me consider the useful purpose of Houston Square. Houston Square is a very, very valuable public space. Now, that relates to this motion because most of the big successful criteriums that you have in parts of England, and some of them are towns small, half the size of Johnstone, but they always have an events village. This is where we need, Houston Square could really come into its own. You need an events village to act as a focal point for these kind of events, because the whole point is it's about town centre cycling round a circuit of roughly a kilometre, roughly. And you need a focal point for that. Johnstone could really score in that regard. So I think we need to look at how we can try and progress it. Now, Scottish Cycling, the governing body for competitive sport cycling in Scotland, they've got regional development grants which to run events. Now, both local authorities and leisure trusts are eligible to apply. the motion does leave things a bit open. I mean, hopefully you might get some local business sponsorship. I think this event could only go ahead with a mixed menu of support behind it financially. Provost, I think that's the whole point, that the burden of the funding and organisation would be shared. But I do think it could bring real and tangible benefits to Johnstone, to the retail community, and also to the wider community. So I'll leave it there and answer any questions at the end. But I think the concept's positive. The Johnstone Wheelers, although cycling is much more of a minority sport than the football, but I mean, cycling in recent decades has become very, very big. Johnstone Wheelers are one of the top cycling clubs in Scotland. They have been for years. They've got an excellent youth development programme in the Johnstone Jets. It's their centenary. They're 100 years old in 2026. So we're working with a very, very well-established cycling club. And also, of course, we want to bring in, as a community event, you want to bring in other bodies as well, like the Community Council, Johnstone Sounds, the Business Consortium, and try and make the whole thing community focused. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Doig. Councillor Hood.
Thank you very much. I just want to sort of echo Councillor Doig there. I think it's a fantastic idea. It will put Johnstone back in the map again, if not Renfrewshire. And we could probably get some maybe famous people to come along. But in general, having something like this within Johnstone, it will benefit the shops and it will help the town thrive. And it might be a catalyst for other things to come to Johnstone. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Hood. Councillor Ian McMillan.
Thanks, Provost. No, I think this is certainly a good idea, and as Councillor Doig said, I was at the Business Consortium when it was raised, and well done for Councillors Doig and Hood for bringing this to the Council's attention. Certainly I'd like to see more events in Johnstone. It's a no-brainer. We've got a kind of natural theatre, if you like, in the bandstand in Houston Square, OUN. So it would be really good in the town centre. Councillor Doig mentioned him and Andy Steele. I'm a cyclist as well. I remember racing along the Beath Road one time and catching up with Andy Steele and saying cheerio to him as I bypassed him. So, no, but we are. Councillor Doig actually helped me out in my cycling career. Remember, you gave me some gloves and equipment as well, which I still use to this day. And it. No, don't go down the road of Lycra. No, guys of my age are no good in Lycra. But you know, as I say, I think it's a good thing, and it's good to get other people involved. The Johnstone Wheelers Club, as Andy said, is well established and a great club. I just live along beside the Beath Road, and the number of cyclists you see going along there is absolutely incredible. Some of them are using the main roads, some of them are going to the nearby cycle track. So certainly cycling is a big sport in the area. And I've been fortunate enough to see a couple of events in Glasgow where it's been absolutely mobbed. And some other people, I quite like watching the Tour de France on the television. I find it quite hypnotic, and it's amazing how these wee guys can get up these big hills. Absolutely terrific. So bringing that to Johnstone would be absolutely fantastic. I would just like to ask Andy one question and ask if I know it was raised at the Johnstone Business Consortium, and John Hood's obviously in Johnstone Sounds. So the other kind of partner in Johnstone's the Johnstone Community Council. Just asking if Andy has maybe discussed this with the Johnstone Community Council as yet, or will do so after this motion is hopefully agreed. Thank you.
Andy. Doig, Councillor Doig.
I haven't formally approached the Community Council. I'm happy to email them. It was on the assumption, I would have assumed, Provost, that they would be happy to be involved in anything that was community based, but I'll certainly email them. But
yeah, I would assume that too. Yeah, but okay. We have no amendments. Councillor James McLaren.
Thank you, Provost. I thought you'd forgotten me there. Yeah.
Do you have an amendment, Councillor McLaren?
I don't have an amendment, no.
I just want to make sure.
Happy to support the idea that's being floated here. Previous events in cycle events in Paisley have been successful, but I think planning a route might be challenging, and traffic could pose an issue. But as a keen cyclist and a member of Ride 63 Cycle Club based in Lochwinnock, I'm very happy to promote cycling and would love to see this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Andy Steele.
Yes, indeed, Provost, thank you. Can I remind Councillor McMillan that the only time he's left me standing on a bicycle, he was in his car at the time. Well, we left that wee detail, we left that crucial detail out. Congratulations to my Johnstone councillor colleagues for bringing this motion. I'd be supportive of it, obviously, for the reasons that all mentioned, but also just more widely because it ties in with what we're trying to do, not just in Johnstone but across the entire county in terms of the tourism strategy of bringing people in. And as I think Councillor Hood mentioned, putting the towns on the map, putting the names of the towns on the map is invaluable in terms of awareness to get people in, and it can only help to visit Renfrewshire as a programme going forward. And of course it ties in with regeneration work in our town centres. The bandstand was mentioned, which is slated for, and that would be all bringing it all together and then hopefully kicking it off with a bang and something like this, as Councillor Doig mentions, in the centenary year for the local cycling club. So congratulations to them, and I'm happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Steele. Councillor Gilmour.
Thank you, Provost. It'd be remiss of me, I welcome this motion, but it'd be remiss of me not to mention that it is the 100 years anniversary of the Johnstone Cycling Club, but we probably need to take time out, maybe mention one of the best Scottish lady cyclists ever, Rita Jones Montgomery. She won 8 best all-round Scottish titles. So, and she's from Johnstone, and she was cycling. I've actually had the good fortune to meet the lady, some time ago, and I think we should pay respect to a person like that, because it just shows you what can be done. I think in those days, perhaps the cycling equipment just wasn't sophisticated as it is today, but we should pay respect to that lady. Thank you very much.
I wasn't aware of that particular lady, so thanks for informing us, Councillor. That's good information to have. Although I doubt if she's met Councillor McMillan yet. Okay, can we agree the motion 3 by Councillors Andy Doig and Hood? Agreed. Okay, listen, members, I'm going to have a very short break just now, and then we'll come back to discuss the rest of the motions. 10 minutes, if you can be back here at 11:10. Can we suspend the recording?